Welcome back to State of the Union. I'm Jake Tapper. Donald Trump, the president-elect, has called our next guest, quote, the enemy within, raising questions about whether he might be targeted under a second Trump administration by law enforcement or whatever. Joining us now exclusively, Senator-elect Adam Schiff of California. Senator-elect, congrats on your win. Did Steve Garvey call you to concede?
He did. Yeah, he was very gracious about it.
Maybe you can get an autographed ball or something. He's still a Dodger great. You heard what Speaker Johnson said about Matt Gaetz. What do you think?
I think he's not only unqualified, he is really disqualified. Are we really going to have an attorney general who there's credible allegations he was involved in child sex trafficking, potential illicit drug use, obstruction of investigation, who has no experience serving in the Justice Department, only being investigated by it? But Jake, I think the whole point with these nominees, several of them, is their unqualification, is their affirmative disqualification. That's Trump's point, because what he wants to do with these nominees is establish that the Congress of the United States will not stand up to him with anything. If they will confirm Matt Gaetz, they will do anything he wants. I mean, look how the Speaker had to tie himself in knots. A couple days ago saying the Speaker effectively should stay out of this, there are important reasons for that, and then getting involved in this, reversing himself. Tying himself into a pretzel to placate Donald Trump. And if the Senate should decide to confirm without seeing this ethics report or to allow recess appointments, essentially the Senate is saying we're going to abdicate our responsibility for advice and consent. This is not why people voted for Donald Trump. They voted for him to reduce prices. I talked to people up and down the state of California. The economy was the central issue. They want someone who's going to address the cost of housing and the cost of childcare and the cost of food and gas. They didn't vote for this kind of retribution destruction tour that the president seems now engaged in.
During his campaign, President-elect Trump repeatedly called you the enemy from within, you and Speaker Pelosi specifically. And he said this about his enemies from within. Take a listen.
I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Do you think that he was talking about using the military against you? And how concerned are you about retribution?
Clearly, that's what he was talking about. Would he go to that length with the military, essentially fulfill some kind of a unconstitutional order? I would hope the military would have more independence than that. Historically, the military has stood up to civilian authority where civilian authority has suggested, as in his first administration, unconstitutional acts. Look, I'm not going to be intimidated by anything he says, by anything he does. If I was, I wouldn't be on your show. I'm going to do my responsibility in the Senate. Californians are expecting me, first and foremost, to try to work and get things done, work across the aisle. Where the president wants to fight prices, I will work with him. But where the president wants to engage in unconstitutional abuses of power, just as he did in the first administration, I will defend our state. I will defend the rights and freedom of the American people. So, yeah, that's what he said. That's what he may try to do, but I'm not going to be intimidated.
I'm looking at these nominees, Tulsi Gabbard to be Director of National Intelligence, possibly Kash Patel to be head of the FBI, Gaetz at DOJ, RFK Jr. at HHS, and others. And obviously, he is bringing a group of people to disrupt. I mean, that is what Speaker Johnson said. And I'm wondering about how much anybody in Washington is being introspective at all about why there is this kind of opening for disruptors, if not necessarily these individuals. You were censured in the House last year for, in their view, holding positions of power during the Trump presidency as chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and according to them, quote, abusing this trust by saying there was evidence of collusion between Trump's campaign and Russia. And I wonder if you are feeling at all introspective at all about that was, according to the Mueller report and according to your Republican colleagues, an overstatement. And I wonder if you think in any way you help set the table for these disruptors.
You know, first of all, it wasn't an overstatement. There is evidence of collusion. The Trump campaign manager was meeting with Russian intelligence and giving them internal polling data, just to give you one example. And the Mueller report sets all this out.
It does say, quote, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities, which doesn't mean that he didn't, that there weren't meetings, but they didn't find evidence
Mueller says
of it.
that too. He says the fact that we didn't find proof beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean there wasn't evidence of conspiracy or coordination. So, but look, that's not what people were voting on. People were voting on, is this guy going to improve the economy? Is he going to address inflation? And we didn't persuade the American people that we had a better answer to that question, that we had a better program, agenda, plan. And more than that, I think we failed to persuade the American people that in the voters' point of view, hey, that party, that candidate understands people like me. They're fighting for people like me. And that's on us. We're going to have to figure that out. I think that's what people were voting on more than anything else. And yeah, we're going to have to do the introspection to say, how do we meet this challenge? And more broadly, Jake, and frankly, I think one of the reasons I was successful in California is I was out there talking about the economy. I was out there talking about what we need to do to bring down the cost of housing and bring down the cost of childcare, and going to places in the Central Valley, elsewhere, red parts of the state, being present, making the case, hey, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for you like any other part of California. We need to make that case all over rural America, that we understand what people are facing, that we respect them, that we're going to deliver for them. I think that's been missing. In my own campaign, that's what I tried to do. I think with some success is go to places they weren't expecting to see me, and when they did, because so many of them only know me from the kind of Fox News, attacks like the one you started out with and mentioned, they are surprised when actually you can relate to people like them and have so much in common and are going to fight for them. I think that's what we have to do.
So do you think Democrats in the second Trump term, I'm not saying that anybody should acquiesce to any abuses of power, but do you think there need to be more focus on the public than on Trump tweet of day kind of thing?
Well, I think we have to address, frankly, a structural problem with the economy that we have not significantly delivered on enough, and that is that it's just not working for millions of people. And the problem is that, not that they're not working, unemployment is low. The problem today is that people are working and they still can't get by.
Some of them 2 or 3 jobs.
Exactly. And I think when people see the quality of life their parents had and say, that's better than what I have, and the future for my kids is even more in doubt, all too many will entertain any demagogue who comes along promising that they alone can fix it. So we're going to have to address these structural economic problems if we're going to not only become a majority again, but become a durable majority, which is what I want to see happen.
Senator-elect Schiff, thanks again, and congratulations again on your race, a rare bright spot for Democrats in a difficult cycle.